first of several times in which we let you tell us what you've been thinking or what you've been feeling, how you've been responding to what you're hearing, what questions you have, what doubts you have, what arguments you have, whatever it is that you would like to say to us. And in a way, I wish Peter had a chance to speak first. I wanted to save Peter for tomorrow, but you don't know how insightful he is. So, but I'm wondering, Alma, if you would be so kind as to take this around to people to see if anybody wants to ask us anything, and then we're gonna do this again tomorrow, the three of us at 1:00 to 1:30 tomorrow.
Sorry, we're gonna have a panel again tomorrow. But okay, great. Would those folks who would like to ask a question please come on up? Let's just form a line down here.
Good
and
idea.
That way you can ask your question and we can pass the microphone back to the panel to answer it.
Good idea.
Thank you. So anybody who has something that you'd like to share, like to hear further reflections on, as Rabbi Michael Lerner was saying, a doubt, a question, a hope, a fear.
Only one restriction.
One restriction.
A minute. No.
1 minute. Yes.
Okay.
So if you want to give a treatise, email Rabbi Lerner and we can put you as a speaker at the next conference. But for now, come on up. So just 1 minute per person to ask your question.
Okay, first, profound thanks for this wonderful conference. And Rabbi Lerner, after your talk, I felt like what was missing to me was the 750 million or billion that was spent on Obama's campaign from corporations. So he's really beholden to them. And also the media problem, where we have millions of dollars going to Sarah Palin and Glenn Beck and nothing to all the wonderful voices we're hearing today or anyone else. So I want to hear your comments.
Oi.
The only proper response.
It's a tremendous problem. I mean, I know that the hearts of many of us sank when once Obama reversed the promise he had made in the primaries to not take money except public money. And to not accept money from corporate sources, and suddenly that was gone. What I can say is, under the radar screen, we built an anti-war movement, and eventually won the majority of Americans despite the media. And really, it was despite the media and despite...
You mean in the 60s?
Not only in the 60s, against the war in Iraq. So that we built a movement such that by 2006, even the Democrats had to, were presenting themselves as critical in some of the war, and they didn't follow through. But so it's possible, despite what seems like the overwhelming facts going in the other direction, to build something under the radar screen that really does have an impact. And it's so frustrating when you're doing it with a small group of people and it looks like nobody's hearing. But if what you're saying makes sense to people, eventually it spreads, and it does spread. And it does then eventually get enough people to make an impact. And that's the best I can say at the moment to it.
I fear, and this is the very first time I've had the opportunity to say it, nobody has asked a question of that nature quite so clearly, and nobody around me has given an answer quite so good. I'm afraid that we are missing the major revolution of our times. I think we're in the middle of great political/electoral reformation. I think the Tea Party, whatever you think of it, is the tip of that iceberg. Now, what is the iceberg? The iceberg is what I have come to call in my own head topical commitments. We are so accustomed in this country to conducting our elections around the party system, the Democrats and the Republicans. And we have never really allowed a viable third party. We've had it emerge several times in history. I'm a slightly used history teacher. But it has never stuck. So what do we have now? Now, I began about 10 years ago to talk about proportional voting because I was troubled by the fact that if you get 51% of anything in this country, you've got it all. That's all. It's winner take all. So instead of having 49 seats to deal with on the other side of the issue, you get 100 of them. Now, we say we have it in the party system, but I think when you look at this emerging independent body, you're going to find yourself in a completely different election in a couple years. The only polls you're getting right now that they're really paying attention to is what Democrats think and what Republicans think. So the bottom line for me is that it may be time. Certainly, the discussion that we never have in public conferences because it's so boring is nevertheless perhaps one of the most dynamics, and that is campaign reform, and they never permit it. They all talk it, and they never do it. Now, the Tea Party's getting their attention. A few people with a clear commitment to a given topic are getting people elected, because they are touching into the concerns of a large body wherever they stand on that political continuum. It seems to me that groups like this are going to have to begin to clarify particular issues, and begin to move political power toward those issues. I have a feeling that our historical electoral process is in shards. We are buying politicians at a great rate and at great amounts. And I don't think you're going to get anything done unless you start pressing the button of what you really want now.
I have a comment and then a question. My comment is to Rabbi Lerner. I would have appreciated when the healthcare reform isn't everything I wanted either. But I think that we have to have an attitude that instead of saying in 2014 it's going to collapse, that we kind of have to do what the representative challenged us to do, is to be able to make Obama be the man he says he is by helping him do that, and to help healthcare reform take work. And that's only going to work if we help it work. So I would have appreciated that kind of a take on it instead of saying it's going to be destroyed in 2014 and that's my comment. My question to you is that, it should be to all three of you, is that I agree with the vision. I think it's wonderful, and I think we should start from that and not let that go. But in the interim, it takes a while for all that to happen, but in the interim, so that we don't sound like we're out in left field and have to talk about it 10 times before someone hears us, what can we do in the interim that kind of gives people a beginning to move towards that vision with the reality of what we're dealing with today? And I know reality is maybe not a word to use with you, but
Well, let me just answer the first part of that on healthcare reform and how to think about it. I agree with you, and we may have 6.5 more years of Barack Obama, and that's a long time. And I think, in spite of the disappointments that have happened in the last year and a half, we should try to think of that as an opportunity. It's a long time, potentially 6.5 more years of someone who is a good and decent human being, who we hope we can reach with a higher, more idealistic moral vision that he's willing to put out publicly. In the case of health care, the positive thing about what passed, one positive thing about it is that it may lead people to now think that they actually have a right to health care. That is a big shift from what existed before that legislation passed, in spite of the criticisms of the legislation. So it's turning that new assumption about American culture into something that can be transformed into a positive health program, which I believe Bruce Hirsch and Cheryl Connor are going to talk about in their workshop.
I'm not going to continue this, but I want to thank the woman because you just made, as far as I'm concerned, you just gave us a perfect example of what can be a topical movement. If somehow or other we do find ourselves in a terrible bind with the insurance companies, then why wouldn't we organize around that kind of pressure? Because I can tell you the rest of the country is going to be there with you.